Hello, I'm Esther Githui-Ewart. Welcome to Africa 54. Here's what's coming up. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris calls for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza in one of the strongest appeals yet from the White House. We get an insight into how U.S. is countering Islamist extremists and the expanding Russian influence in West Africa. And an initiative works to provide clean drinking water to Eswatini's rural communities. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris is calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza in one of the strongest appeals yet from the White House to halt the war. Speaking at the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, Harris says people in Gaza are starving.
We have seen reports of families eating leaves or animal feed, women giving birth to malnourished babies with little or no medical care, and children dying from malnutrition and dehydration. As I have said many times, too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. And just a few days ago, we saw hungry, desperate people approach aid trucks, simply trying to secure food for their families after weeks of nearly no aid reaching northern Gaza. And they were met with gunfire and chaos.
On Saturday, a joint operation by the U.S. and Jordanian Air Forces airdropped 38,000 meals along Gaza's coastline. A senior U.S. official says airdrops will be part of a sustained effort with international partners to ramp up humanitarian assistance into Gaza. A ceasefire agreement would bring about the first extended pause in the fighting since a week-long truce in late November. U.S. officials are engaged in a flurry of diplomatic efforts publicly and privately in West Africa, looking for ways to partner with military governments in an area where violence by Islamist extremists is on the rise and Russian influence is expanding. J. Peter Pham, former U.S. Special Envoy for the Sahel region, tells VOA's Carol Van Dam that the U.S. must do more than just push for transparent and free elections.
One doesn't have to condone a coup, and one doesn't, to recognize that they often, in some cases do respond to an underlying problem that existed. Just because it was a guy in uniform who took over and did it extra constitutionally doesn't mean that what came before was a Jeffersonian democracy or even a democracy. And first. Secondly, the fact is we have to acknowledge the reality. The reality is that tens of thousands, in the case of Mali, even millions of people have gone to the streets to demonstrate in support of the military takeovers. Now, again, without justifying them, without condoning them, one has to recognize that these guys are popular. In fact, in many cases, more popular than the regimes that came before them. And so we have to deal with the reality of the situation, look at our national interests, and look at what people in the region are looking for. I think that this is where we have to look at each case individually. And sanctions, tough talk, that hasn't worked. ECOWAS, the regional community, has itself taken a step back and dropped some of the sanctions against Niger as being counterproductive. And that's what we need to do, is to seek engagement, hopefully to bring these countries back to our constitutional path, and certainly to look after our own security interests in this region.
U.S. Assistant Secretary of State Molly Fee recently visited Niamey, Niger's capital. She said we made the choices as stark and clear as we could. But like you mentioned, Niger, there really hasn't been any movement in the democratic, side of things. What do you know about that?
You can't be a doctor that diagnoses an ailment and refuses to write a script for the medication needed. Then if you won't write the script, don't be surprised if the patient goes on to someone else who gives them something, even if it's not a good remedy. And I think that's what we have to look at. This is what are these regimes looking for? They're looking for security assistance. They're looking to buy weapons. We're not going to provide them. I'm not saying we should in every single case. We have to look at each case individually. Then don't be surprised that when Russia offers them what is essentially a regime survival kit, if you will, of military assistance, security, advice, in some cases even mercenaries, that they will go for that.
That was J. Peter Pham, former U.S. ambassador and special envoy for Africa's Sahel region, speaking with VOA's Carol Van Dam. 25% of Eswatini's rural communities lack clean drinking water, according to the charity Water Aid. Another 40% of these communities do not have access to water. Nokukhanya Musi reports from Lubombo region in Eswatini.
Every day, Jabu Gametse makes a 2-kilometer trek to Mkulubane River, the only water source near a home in Mapungwane in the Lubombo region of Eswatini. Although the water is contaminated and her route is dangerous, with risks of theft and sexual assault, she says she has no other choice.
As the seasons grow hotter and drier, the water we rely on is becoming scarcer. The well that has sustained us for so long is starting to run dry, and our future hangs in the balance.
According to the United Nations, the annual mean temperatures in Eswatini have increased by more than 3 degrees Celsius between 1961 and 2000. These shifts have led to the decreased stream flows in primary river basins and heightened instances of waterborne diseases.
We must wake up early to fetch water before going to school, negatively impacting our studies. By the time we arrive at school, we're already tired and often fall asleep in class.
Our children are sick and our water is unclean. We have no other choice but to drink it, even though we know it will make us ill.
International aid agencies such as Water Aid and World Vision International are working to address the water crises in Eswatini by funding the construction of water filtering systems and new wells, as well as improvements to sanitation facilities. The Italian aid agency Corporation for the Development of Emerging Countries, or COSPE, is collaborating with the people of Mapungwane in the construction of a new water filtration system set to be unveiled soon.
They raise their own issues, identify the problems affecting them as a result of climate change, and they also come out with some proposed solutions on how they can adapt, how they can address those issues.
In 2023, the Eswatini government allocated funds to improve water supply schemes, which will benefit over 41,000 people. Nokukhanya Musi, VOA News, Mapungwane, Eswatini.
All eyes are on whether Senegal's President Macky Sall agrees with the June 2nd election date proposed after talks that were boycotted by most of the opposition presidential candidates. Some of them have formed an informal alliance in response to the electoral turmoil. VOA's Paul Ndiho has more.
Senegal is experiencing what many people are calling a political crisis after President Macky Sall postponed the presidential election, which was originally scheduled for February 25, 2024. The opposition and a major civil society collective are now joining forces to ensure the election takes place before President Macky Sall's mandate ends. The collective is working with 16 of the 19 presidential candidates approved by the Constitutional Council, as well as the opposition coalition of F24 and the Front for the Defense of Democracy. Henry Muguzi, the African Elections Observer Network coordinator based in Kampala, Uganda, says activists in Senegal need to work in unison.
I think more than ever we need to protect them. We need to encourage them to speak up. We need to make sure that we actually track the civic space for those citizen observers, because we want to be able to see how are they being treated. Are they being victimized? Are they being targeted? So I think we need to pay more attention to those observers, because they are the ones that are going to be the gatekeepers for the democracy of Senegal.
Moma Deng, who has served previously as Senior Technical and Policy Advisor in Senegal's Ministry of Education, says the delay is jeopardizing the stability of the country.
We get to April 2nd and that there is still no clear pathway to determine a successor. I think that it will be a very, very dark day for Senegal in a very confusing situation. And I think that we all pray that we do not get to that point.
Following violent protests and after Senegal's top constitutional body overruled Sall's election delay, the president launched a two-day national dialogue on Monday to find a new election date. Sall has repeatedly said that he would step down at the beginning of April, but this week he said he would seek the opinion of Senegal's Constitutional Council before finalizing on the new date for elections. Paul Ndiho, VOA News, Washington.
Let us know what you think about Africa 54 and all our VOA Africa programs on our website at voaafrica.com. Still to come, U.S. voters in more than a dozen states head to the polls on Super Tuesday. We'll be right back.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linor Moudou, in Washington every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
In other news, the Church of England is accepting a £1 billion target to address historical financial links to the slave trade, as recommended by an oversight group led by descendants of enslaved Africans, which said the initial £100 million was too low. The oversight group says that the fund was not enough when compared to the scale of the racial disadvantage caused by its past investments. A South African soldier deployed in the Democratic Republic of Congo has shot and killed a colleague, then turned the gun on himself. The South African National Defense Force says the soldier used his official service weapon. South Africa says it has convened a board of inquiry to work with the peacekeeping force in Congo to investigate the incident. The German charity SOS Humanity is accusing the Libyan Coast Guard of threatening its crew members who are rescuing migrants in the Mediterranean Sea, causing at least one migrant to drown. The charity operates the rescue ship Humanity One, says the Libyan Coast Guard on Saturday used violence and fired live bullets into the water during its life-threatening intervention. A spokesman for the Libyan Coast Guard did not respond to phone calls and messages seeking comment. U.S. voters in more than a dozen states head to the polls on Tuesday to choose their party's presidential nominee. All candidates are ramping up criticism of their challengers and spelling out their priorities to voters. VOA's Veronica Balderas Iglesias has the details.
Voters in 15 U.S. states and American Samoa will head to the polls on Tuesday to indicate whom they favor as their party's nominee in the November presidential election. Democratic President Joe Biden and Republican predecessor Donald Trump are each expected to draw closer to securing their party's nomination. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, who is trailing Trump for her party's nomination, told NBC's Meet the Press Sunday she'll continue in the race for as long as voters want her to be.
They'll show it in their votes. They'll show it in their donations. My focus is we need to start respecting taxpayer dollars. We need to reduce the size of government. We need to secure our borders and be a country of law and order. And we believe in peace through strength.
Immigration is also among the topics that former President Trump chose to focus on ahead of what is known as Super Tuesday.
Not one more innocent American life should be lost to migrant crime. Got to stop it. You have to get out the vote because we have to send big numbers up for November 5th. We have to let them know that we're a freight train and we're going and we're not stopping.
President Biden, who visited the Texas border last week, accuses Trump of scuttling a bipartisan border security bill. This past Saturday, First Lady Jill Biden shed light on another topic that she argues voters should consider ahead of Super Tuesday: women's reproductive rights.
He's considering a national abortion ban. Donald Trump is dangerous to women and to our families. We simply cannot let him win.
President Biden is all but guaranteed to be his party's nominee. On the Republican side, Trump needs to secure at least 1,215 delegates to officially secure the nomination. It could take several days for all of Tuesday's results to be formally announced. Veronica Valderas Iglesias, VOA News, Washington.
Indigenous African grains such as millet and sorghum are known to be nutritious, but are not popular foods with many, especially the Gen Zs who view the grains as food for the poor. Juma Majanga has more from Nairobi.
At her home-based factory in Nairobi, Dora Momanyi is making popcorn snacks using indigenous grains. Momanyi says IPOP Africa was birthed 3 years ago from her master's degree research project on the role of indigenous African grains in promoting nutrition in Kenya's semi-arid areas. Today, Momanyi purchases grains such as yellow indigenous maize, millet, sorghum, and brown rice from smallholder farmers. She converts them into snacks to provide consumers with convenient and healthy snacks that are rich in nutrients and free from oil and gluten.
What IPOP is trying to do is to reclaim or bring back the glory of the traditional millets and sorghum. What we basically do is we transform these indigenous grains that are climate smart, remember, because now we are talking about climate change everywhere. And we are also talking about our water tables going down. So we really want people in semi-arid regions to benefit from what they have.
The grains are subjected to high pressure and a temperature machine that transforms them into pops. To enhance the taste of the products, natural flavors and spices are then added through a process called food-to-food fortification. The result is a range of snacks and breakfast cereals. The products are receiving good reviews. Brandon Wayaki, a student at the United States International University Africa in Nairobi, is a consumer of the snacks.
It's a nice snack. Like if you see people love maybe taking popcorns when they're going for movies. So this can be like a nice alternative to popcorn. Yeah, because it's healthy and it still has the same taste, so it's okay.
Kenya is one of the countries that still grapples with food security. More than a quarter of the children under the age of 5, or 2 million children, have stunted growth, according to UNICEF. Experts say the situation is similar across Africa. Antonina Mutoro is a research scientist at the African Population and Health Research Center in Nairobi.
We are currently experiencing a nutrition transition, which means that there is a shift in diets from traditional diets, which are mainly rich in micronutrients and fiber, to diets which are mostly processed, high in fat, salt and sugar. So as a consequence, you find that there is an increase in non-communicable diseases such as diabetes and hypertension, as well as obesity.
To help address climate change, which is one of the factors affecting food systems in Africa, IPOP Africa has come up with a One Snack, One Tree initiative where the company plants a tree for every product purchased. Momanyi says her goal is to revolutionize the snack industry and foster environmental sustainability.
We are also looking at a population that is getting educated more and more, and we are seeing a change in consumption patterns. So in future, actually from now going to the future, we are seeing a larger population moving to consumption of healthy alternative, healthy food products. And that is the niche market that we are trying to venture into.
Nutrition and food security remain major challenges on the African continent. Entrepreneurs like Momanyi hope to be at least part of the solution. Juma Majanga, VOA News, Nairobi.
A secondary school dropout from rural Malawi is bringing electricity to his community using what he says is a groundbreaking air-powered generator. But there are questions about how the system works. Lamek Masina has more from Dowa District.
Inventor Ernest Andrews' innovation largely aims to save money villagers spend in buying torches and batteries to light their homes.
After realizing that we were facing a lot of problems without using electricity, I thought of trying to make electricity. Now here we are.
The 18-year-old secondary school dropout says his generator produces 1,000 volts of electricity. He has now connected 9 houses from a self-made transformer.
This system generates electricity using air. To make a light bulb illuminate, I use power stored in bottles. I experiment with magnetic power to determine how much electricity I can produce. After that, I generate power based on the number of houses I want to supply.
But experts complain of Andrew's failure to articulate how he is using air to generate electricity, or they say he might be purposely concealing it to prevent others from copying.
What type of air is he using? We don't know. What air is doing to produce the power? We don't know. And he's not saying. How is he taking the air into his system to produce electricity? We don't know. And he's not explaining. So how can we appreciate? How can we assist as engineers?
Katumba said if it proved real, Andrew's innovation would be rated among the most extraordinary in the world. The innovation has convinced skeptical neighbors.
I was among those who were doubting his ability to generate electricity, which we can use in our homes. But when I saw that he had managed to connect his parents' house, that's when I asked him to connect my house too. Now life is simple.
The villagers use the free electricity to charge phones and plug in electric shaving machines. Andrew's mother, Evelyn Chinguo, says he dropped out of school in 2018 because of lack of school fees.
I am appealing to well-wishers to assist this boy to continue with his education, like sending him back to school to improve his innovative ideas, because the knowledge he is using now is inborn.
Minister of Energy Ibrahim Matola recently expressed appreciation of the invention.
Such innovations can make us achieve access to electricity. But not only access, affordability, sustainability.
Authorities in Dowa District donated training, electric wires, protective wear, and a gadget for measuring electricity voltage.
One thing that we're going to do as a district to make sure that whatever he's doing when he is working on the appliances is safe.
The Malawi government has organized a group of experts and identify areas to assist. In the meantime, Andrew is working to connect the entire village and fulfill the government's request to illuminate the nearby public primary school. Lamek Masina, VOA News, Dowa District, Malawi.
3 African women are among those who will be honored at the White House Monday with Women of Courage Award. Agatha Atuhaire of Uganda, a renowned journalist, lawyer, and social justice activist; Fatou Balde of Gambia, a survivor of female genital mutilation; and Rabha El Haimar of Morocco, a courageous woman who successfully navigated her country's legal system and fought to obtain through a recourse provided by Morocco's family code reform in 2004 in recognition of her traditional marriage to spare her daughter a life of marginalization and discrimination as undocumented child. Now let's listen to the event live at the White House.
Journalist, lawyer, and social justice activist Agatha Atuhaire has brought light to sexual harassment, abuses of power, and violations of human rights in Uganda. At great personal risk, Ms. Atuhaire seeks to hold leaders accountable and has led to changes in the Ugandan Ministry of Health and Parliament. Volya Harbonova was imprisoned by the Lukashenko regime after organizing women's marches. While in prison, she suffered psychological torture and threats of death. Ms. Harbonova now bravely advocates for the release of political prisoners and provides support to their families as a member of the Belarusian Democratic Movement in exile. Please join me once more in congratulating these brave women.
Please welcome USAID Administrator Samantha Power.
Hello, everyone. It has always taken bravery and stubbornness to stand up for human rights. But today, the threats that human rights activists and defenders face, from threats to their families, to legal retribution, to imprisonment and outright violence at the hands of those who would prefer to see them silenced, those threats are grave, and sadly, they are growing. In 2022, more than 400 human rights defenders were murdered, the highest number ever recorded in a single year. I am in awe of the women we are honoring today for their courage. They refuse.
Right. We'll have to wrap it there, and that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.